Good morning. It's Monday. A lot has happened since we last spoke to you. It is officially unofficially official that we are going to get an NHL team, and most likely this week. And I will say this, if and when that official announcement comes out, let's pack the Delta Center to welcome them here.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll.
Exciting news.
I'm sure Ryan will open it up.
As long as you say so.
And we will pack it and welcome this team. How cool is that to have an NHL team in the great state of Utah? It's unbelievable.
Who would have thunk it?
Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Who would have thought that?
I would have put it lower on the list of possibilities. I think football will never happen, but I would have put baseball first and then hockey. But I'm very excited.
I think we'll get baseball too. But wow, what a huge day!
Yes, everyone get
Huge
familiar
announcement.
with it. We don't want to be a fan base that doesn't know the rules for the first 3 years.
Yeah, well, they're not hard to understand. It's not a complicated game.
No.
So they are moving. They will likely be rebranded, is what I'm hearing. I think Arizona is going to keep the Coyotes name and brand in case they can do an expansion team in the future.
Which they should.
What iteration of Double Z are we gonna make for this for this team, right?
My personal opinion is Utah Pioneers.
Double Z on the end.
Yeah, Pioneers.
Pioneers. Yeah.
It's like our mascot's like a bee dressed up as a pioneer.
I feel like hockey needs something a little more, a little more masculine, a little
Actually,
more warrior,
How funny would it be for hockey if it was Utah Pioneers and the mascot was literally a couple crossing the plains in a handcart? And they just come out. They just kind of skate around in the rink with the handcart, and then they leave. That'd be so cool.
They're all emaciated with scurvy and sad. Like, you wouldn't believe what we just went through.
Yeah.
How cool would that
dirt
be?
head to toe. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's tough, right? That's tough.
That's way tough. Well, I think that is very exciting and huge news for the state of Utah. Just the fact that Utah can handle another pro team, I think, says a lot about where this state is and where it's going. I think the fact that we're already talking about baseball and getting a Major League Baseball team here would be great. I agree with you. I don't know why we would ever get an NHL team with the Raiders and Broncos right next to us. Or, NFL, sorry.
Yeah.
So I'm not entirely sure why that would even happen. I think we could certainly handle it because, it's only 8 games a year.
Yeah. I mean, it's, 60 to 80,000 people versus 15 or 20,
18, 25, yeah.
Yeah, I imagine like 25 years from now we can handle that though, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
But
definitely says we're growing up though, getting an NHL team. And it's cool to see the demographic, because hockey wasn't really like a Utah thing until I would say I've seen a lot of the in-migration, coming from northern Midwest and, stuff or, Canada where hockey's really, kind of the mainstay, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you see that coming into Utah and really creating a larger fan base. Having lived in Park City for a long time, there's a big league up there in Park City that plays every weekend, and they compete semi-pro, regionally and all that kind of stuff. So it's but most of them, a lot of people from Minnesota and Wisconsin and some Canadians and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got snow, we've got ice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've got the Olympics twice.
Yeah.
Olympics. Yeah, Olympics coming here soon.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And the Grizzlies have been a mainstay for a long, long, long time, and those games are amazing. I hope they benefit with the Tide, and it would be cool if they became the affiliate farm team of.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to figure out actually. Like, where will they practice? They kind of got to remodel the Delta Center in order to make this work.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there will be enough facilities to easily support them. The Utah Outliers, like a little semi-pro development league. They play out in West Valley, but they're building a rink up in Park City.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So
Really?
I've been to a bunch of those
Just
games.
west, right? They're over by
That's a cool
by
name.
the Jordanelle. Yeah.
Outliers.
Yeah.
And it's based on the book.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's run by a guy named Kevin McCluskey. You've met him a few times. We'll have him on the show. he's a hockey guy. He played 1 or 2 games in the AHL.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Another, by the way, Earl Foote's here. Should probably say that.
Thanks for
Earl's-
having me, guys.
Thank you
This
so
is going
much
to be a
for
lot of
being
fun.
here.
Yeah.
It's incredible to have you, and we're going to go deep on everything that you're working on. Let's get through some of this news, though. There's tons of news since Thursday, since we were last here. Scotty Scheffler won the Masters.
He did. He's a really cool guy, gentleman. Second time. It was a fun afternoon. There was ups and downs, and it was a crowded leaderboard, and you know the course took its victims like it always does. But one of the coolest parts was Tiger's reception. But then Tiger played with the low amateur, and the low amateur's best buddy was his caddy. And so I love those stories where
that's cool.
You just show up and you're like, we'll see what happens. Turns out you get to play the final round with Tiger and have that experience with your best buddy and end up in the Butler cabin. Vern Lundquist called his 40th and final Masters. That was really cool.
Good for Vern.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. I like Scotty a lot. He's actually reminds me of Nikola Jokic from the NBA, like who he kind of doesn't really care about the game once he's off the court. And once Scotty was like, I'm honestly not even, like, golf is a pretty unfulfilling career. I'm not even thinking about the green. I just want to go home. That's what he's saying at the end. That's so cool.
Yeah, because
that's so real.
Father, and he's just a nice fella.
It's like, let's just go home. That's enough. First ever United States president will face a trial today. Donald Trump. I don't think we have anything to say about that. FBI has opened criminal investigation into Baltimore bridge collapse. And another big one. All of this is so crazy. So much has happened since Thursday. Mark Pope, BYU's head coach, is going to be the head coach of Kentucky. The best coaching job for college basketball in the country.
Yeah.
Mark Pope got.
Yeah.
Big step.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
He's had success everywhere along the lines, and I forgot that he played for Kentucky in 96, so kind of a homecoming.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah, big step up, and it'll be a little bit different for him.
A little bit different. It's going to be very different.
Should be fun for him going back to his alma mater.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's kind of like a coaching dream, right? You know,
to be the head coach of Kentucky basketball?
Yeah.
My word. Only legends do that.
Yep.
Seriously, it's just legend after legend after legend after legend that's been the head coach of that program.
And fingers crossed, hopefully he has a good, first 3 or 4 years so he doesn't have to get in that vortex of like comparing to all of those legends.
I'm sure he will. I mean, they made the tournament this year. They did kind of flame out a little earlier than people thought. I'm fascinated by how Calipari even got out of there, though. Like, he's going to Arkansas? Doesn't that seem like a downgrade?
Well, there's usually reasons for that, I would assume. Again, I have no idea. But you run out your welcome at Kentucky. I think the boosters and the others have like a lot of power and sway. Again, I don't know. I'm just glad that Mark Pope landed there.
Israel was attacked by Iran. Sounds like that'll be the end of Iran's involvement, hopefully.
Yeah, they don't have to go another round. I think they can both say, we did what we said.
It's probably. By the way,
even
what are either of them? Who are they playing for? Like, who's their audience? Like, all right, just stop killing each other. That's all anybody wants.
Well, this may have been a fever dream or something, but I feel like some of the citizens of Iran were goading their government of like, geez, what are you going to do? They just socked us in the chin. What are you guys going to do, you chickens? So what they launched was a swarm and a bunch of ballistic missiles. Israel, along with their benefactors, were able to shoot most of them down, if not all of them. So,
well, isn't it kind of easy to shoot them down when you give everybody notice that you're doing it?
Yeah, well,
like I remember Netanyahu gets up there in a press conference. He's like, "They're coming here in a couple hours. They're in the air now, and we're gonna shoot them down when they get here."
Yeah,
like that is the furthest thing away from like trying to kill tons of people.
Sounds like a pretty peaceful war.
That is like, hey, we're gonna send them. Here's where we're gonna send them.
Yeah,
and shoot them down.
Yeah,
because my word, we don't want this to escalate, but we got to do something.
Yeah, and watch billions of dollars of a fireworks show above the desert. But I think it was a good solution. Hopefully, everyone's just like they can, put their swords away and be like, yeah we showed them.
Cooler heads seems to have prevailed for the time being, at least. Elon is laying off 10% of the workforce at Tesla. That's interesting. That's still happening.
Yep.
Still some
Unfortunate.
layoffs there. And then social order could collapse in the AI era. NBA playoffs are coming. We're not in them, so who cares?
I did not know that. I look to you for all my basketball knowledge. I haven't watched a game this century.
Well, a really cool matchup actually is Suns Timberwolves with our old Rudy at Timberwolves. And the Suns are a really, really good team. Suns have beat them all 3 times they played in the regular season. But Minnesota's the higher ranked team. They're the 3rd seed. Suns are the 6th. And man, they've got a great team. Minnesota has a great team.
They deserve it. That's been a long time coming.
Yeah. So hopefully Minnesota. Although I like Kevin Durant and I don't mind the Suns either, but yeah, it'd be cool if Minnesota could go deep here.
All right, Minnesota's my team now.
Earl, what have you been up to, dude?
You know, talking about all these current affairs, I was telling Garrett, I'm relatively disconnected from current affairs and what's going on, news in the world, anyways. But I'm just coming back from a week away, completely disconnected, digital detox, doing a meditation and yoga retreat.
Wow.
In Mexico, I'm noticing on camera how burnt I am. Like I'm like,
you look good.
Am I really this red? You know,
you look good. You look nice and tan.
Yeah. Anyways, personally, that's the most recent thing. So all these current affairs from last week, like I'm literally just getting caught up right now, and it's not my thing anyways. Like I usually just kind of keep my head down, stay focused, and telling Garrett, I'm a student of, beyond meditation and yoga, I'm a student of mindfulness and the pursuit of consciousness, and so a lot of that for me includes detachment, and I don't find that like being super engaged with what's happening in the world is really constructive for me, like it doesn't really build me as a human being, and it doesn't really help me build a meaningful business, so I know I can't be like just completely out of touch with everything, right? So I get some current affairs, some some news and stuff through social media, or here and there, might look something up, if something looks of interest. But outside of that, honestly, like I'm not the guy to talk to about current affairs.
That's very healthy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pursuit of healthy.
Have you always been like that? Or
it's been the last 12 or 15 years that I kind of found yoga and meditation, and and have kind of evolved my practices there, my pursuits, and at times it serves me really well, and at times, it's like, oh well, I'm completely oblivious to what's going on.
No, that's great. What is consciousness? Let's just get into it.
Very good. We're going deep
right
off the bat. And some of this gets pretty weird it's out there kind of stuff, Clint, physically, I mean, we are beings of, flesh and blood, of course. We're, mind, right? Mind and body. Beyond that, I think most, call them spiritual belief systems, throughout the world and history, include a belief that there's a part of our being that is beyond the physical realm, right? There's a spirit, a soul, consciousness, whatever you might think of. In Eastern, kind of traditions, in Buddhist and Hinduism, there's this deep belief that we are not the physical being that we see in front of ourselves, that we are the consciousness. We are
like a spirit,
a spirit, a soul, a sentient being that maybe even is, connected to the ether, right? And that we are the observers of this physical experience. And so, the kind of the study and the pursuit of living more from a conscious level is seeking to not be controlled or the victim of the circumstances of this physical experience, but to observe, and then to be deeply self-aware of your own thoughts, your actions, what drives them, and to be in control of that, right? Like to slow down time enough to understand, like, I know exactly why I'm reacting this way to this, situation, why I'm saying these things, and where that those thought patterns come from, where the beliefs and where the, where that trauma is, or that, what's driving me to think this way and react this way. And then, working on ultimately changing all of that, at a very deep level within yourself. For a lot of those Eastern kind of belief systems, it's the pursuit of enlightenment. It's the pursuit of understanding your true nature and like your connectivity to source and to universe and to God, and some pretty deep stuff, right? As I was telling Garrett earlier, like I don't necessarily align or affiliate, with any any specific religious belief system. I just look for things that I think resonate with me, and are kind of my guide, and for me, a lot of the principles of mindfulness and, the pursuit of consciousness, they help me be a better human being. They help me show up better, in all my roles in life, roles as CEO and father and husband and friend, and, however I want to decide I want to show up in life. So, yeah, man.
Yeah. Do you get the sense that we've kind of shunned everything you described as society, and we've kind of really focused on here and now, how we're feeling right now, how we can continue to feel good right now, that type of stuff, versus what you're explaining? Like it does seem like, and maybe it's making a comeback anecdotally, I do feel like I'm having these conversations more and more lately.
Yeah.
But it seems like as a society, we really kind of push this away for like immediate gratification.
Totally. Our current modern society is really geared around us simply being the pawns of, all the strings that are pulled, right? We just react to everything going on, right? We react to all the influences. For me, ultimately that's giving your power up to something else or somebody else, for you to not be in control of who you are as an individual, how you choose to live this life and experience it, right? It's a very disempowering kind of, place to be. And I mean, granted, my role as a CEO is probably what's brought me to a lot of this, part of it's, personal life pursuits and some of the things that I've been through in life that, have caused me to reflect and go deeper. But a lot of it is, around, my professional role, and, how I try to show up, and certainly, building a business, being a founder, being a CEO, being in control by other influences or circumstances simply doesn't work. Like you've got to be in the driver's seat. And I totally agree. Like if we look at history and we look at, a lot of the beliefs and practices of the ancients, I think we were far more connected. We understood our connectivity as beings and as humans, and our connectivity to the planet and nature and all that kind of stuff, at a far deeper level, hundreds of or thousands of years ago. And in modern society, we've lost a lot of that. We're just doing whatever Instagram tells us to do, which kind of, for me, is a sad place to be.
That's very, very sad, particularly for our kids.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. I mean, it's sad for all of us, and I think it's unhealthy for all of us. But in particular, man, for kids, it's so awful to, that is reality. Social media is reality. Oh, my word.
Yeah.
We've took a wrong turn.
I would say I do notice though, and I'd say there's hope, because like in particularly in Gen Zers, and like my children predominantly being I have a blended family, 3 biological sons and a biological son a bonus son and daughter, and then a bonus daughter. She's my wife's stepdaughter. So 6 total, and they're primarily Gen Zers. One is a millennial. I'm seeing, amongst them and their peers and friends, if you want to put it in New Age spiritual kind of terms, or in Eastern philosophical terms, I'm seeing some awakening, in that generation of like, hey, this is all chaos and crazy. What are we doing? Like why do we pay so much attention to, everybody that's trying to pull strings around us, and we just give in and be pawns and play to it, So I think there's hope, I think for many people are beginning to understand a deeper level of connection, beginning to pursue it, and, like trying to figure out what does that mean, and, how do we evolve the way we live as human beings, we talked about, firing missiles and, drones and stuff. Like for me, and I know this is a pipe dream, but why the hell do we need war at this point? Like for real.
Seriously?
Can't we just evolve as human beings and like be like, this shit it doesn't serve any of us, the reality is we're all connected, if you want to go, really out there, we're all brothers and sisters, we're all one energy, why are we trying to hurt each other? Why can't we just act out of love and like, leave all the bullshit aside?
Yeah.
And I realize that's a total pipe dream and it's very complex, right? But for me, it's like, why do we need this?
We don't.
Yeah.
Is the answer. And how we solve for that, how we get to that point is who knows, right? But we certainly do not need to be doing this.
Yeah.
Like we know that.
Why do we need violence?
Yeah.
It's, again, if you're talking like New Age spiritualism, the vibrational level of violence and hate and anger is extremely low, right?
Yeah.
The vibrational levels of caring and abundance and love, and I'm getting out there, guys. This is like, but it's far, good. The vibrational levels of those frequencies, far higher. They serve us better as human beings, right? And in our eternal pursuit, if we believe that there's something beyond this, right?
Yeah, even this this thing that just happened over the weekend with Iran sending the missiles, but letting everybody know where the missiles were going and to shoot them down. Who are you performing for at that point? Like, let's just stop. Like, what's going on? Like, is the performance for us, like, to prove that you are manly enough or you have what it takes to be in a war? Or I don't know who you're trying to prove that to, but we believe you.
Yeah.
Just go on. We're good.
The display of power, right? A display of
power is so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's it does such crazy things to people. Like you said, people are pulling strings and making moves that ultimately don't matter. And we know that they don't matter at the end of the day. At the end of your life, you're like, I pulled this string and I did this thing better than my competition, or I won this thing. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
It's wild.
When you think about, life in an eternal sense, and whatever your belief system is, right? If you think about life in an eternal sense, like, all the stupid, idiotic day-to-day sort of things that happen, it's like, what are we doing? Like, seriously, are we not better than this?
Yeah.
Yeah. In Caddyshack, there's a funny line where, Bill Murray's character caddies for the Dalai Lama. And he doesn't get a tip, but on his deathbed, he will receive total consciousness. So he has that going for him.
There you go.
Which is nice. Total consciousness is kind of the end all be all, right, for this type of thinking. But I assume there's levels below that that are pretty cool and pretty nice to be in. On this retreat, what were your goals for this level of consciousness, and how do you know when you're kind of in it?
Yeah, good questions. And I think, if you're thinking about, again, Hinduism, Buddhism, New Age spiritualism, the pursuit is some level of deeper consciousness, and ultimately maybe, even during this life or beyond this life, like being in pure consciousness, Hindus call that nirvana, So for me, for this retreat, and I decided to take a vacation, rather than taking a vacation, I went and did deep work, I did 2 yoga sessions a day, 2, deep meditations a day. I did, breathwork workshops and workshops on chakras. And, I did get out. We got to the beach a little bit and a waterfall hike and a few things. But it really was about working on, my whole self, and I did, look, I believe we are mind, body, and spirit. I believe that there's an intangible piece to our being. And the more that we can learn to live in a healthy state in all 3 of those places, physical health, mental health, which includes psychological, right? And then, seeking greater depth of meaning in our spirit, and how to really ultimately not, if we're talking about, again, Eastern philosophical, sort of, ways of thinking, it's living this experience through spirit, through consciousness, not through the mind. because the mind is just, the mind, they call it the monkey mind, right? It just forever is in this cycle of like very destructive sort of thought patterns and things that, don't serve you, that, we default to a victim mindset. We don't default to empowerment. We don't default to, what happened in this situation and what was my role, what's my ownership, what's my accountability, how did I create this? Why did I have this experience, and how am I going to change it in the future, right? So yeah, for me, Garrett, it was really about, going, opening myself up to a deeper sense of being, seeking, deeper consciousness for myself. Your last part of that question was?
How do you know, like, when you're in a various level, and what does it feel like?
That's where this gets a little weird, right? That's where this gets a little weird. Because, I think that for many people, that potential experience is probably, it's just so foreign to what we understand and what's palpable and real to us here. You see an escalating kind of popularity of psychedelics, because psychedelics generally help people tap into a deeper level of consciousness and live, at least for a space of time, in a deeper level of consciousness. But there's a lot of meditation techniques to get there. Transcendent meditation and holotropic breathing, is used very popularly right now to get to a state of higher consciousness. It feels like you're sitting kind of back behind yourself. I can give you text to read, and stuff if it's of interest to you. The Untethered Soul, is a really interesting book that I would say really closely describes experiences of pure consciousness, where you have, and this is, again, this gets out there, but really out of body experiences. Like, people describe near-death experiences, these out-of-body experiences where you suddenly understand and know that you are a being that is not attached to this physicality, right? And you're literally observing it. It's a sixth sense, like and generally it's, I think in this physical realm. This is going to be a really wild conversation, guys. Like,
no, this is awesome.
People are going to go, "This dude's fucking nuts."
This is awesome.
So sorry, I said the F word on.
I'm pretty sure you can say it. I mean,
Too late.
Yeah, too late. Bleep. I would say for most of us, maybe some of the real gurus and masters like live in pure consciousness all the time. For most of us, it's temporary. Like, it's, you may reach it through meditation, or, again, a lot of people are using psychedelics to. I have my own thoughts about that, but some of it's, I think, is maybe unnatural or unhealthy. Hacking. If you think about the ancients and history, there was a lot more ceremony around the use of plant medicine. Anyways, but for most, it's a temporary experience. It's hours or a few days. For some, I think that they maybe reach enlightenment in this light, in this life, and they live in that space for some time. It just, you feel like a different being. You feel again, you feel like you're the observer. You have a sixth sense, like foods are richer, there's more taste. You feel the connectivity, to other people, to, nature. You see colors more vibrantly, again, I'm getting out there and, I can't profess whether I've had these experiences or not, not on air, right? But I guess, I'm talking from experience, of having, experiences that I think you have feelings of like, okay, this is kind of supernatural,
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
So folks like you, and by the way, ever since I've met you, I've always felt that you had a different enlightenment. right? You're nicer, kinder, honest. Anyways, you send off a good vibe.
Appreciate that.
But you also, as the CEO and founder of Nexus, part of your business is like defending against people that have bad vibes and are trying to hack emails and steal stuff all the time. I always enjoy being around people that I don't want to be around somebody that's constantly in enlightenment and consciousness, because it's like, okay.
Sure. Some balance is necessary. Yeah.
But I like when people like are applying what they're dedicated to a real-time, semi-stressful or dramatic instance, right?
Yeah.
Which business is, and a lot of times, how do you apply, all the work that you do to a crappy day at the office?
Yeah, very, very good. It's not easy, man. It's definitely not easy. And I'll tell you, like, business is not a place where it's really easy to live in a more enlightened sort of state. And candidly, I mean, again, I think until, I'm not even sure we're meant to get there, like for all of humanity to act, out of a greater sense of kindness and love. I don't think that's necessarily realistic, and this experience we're meant to experience, like, again, these are like personal beliefs, right? But we're meant to experience sorrow and pain and suffering and, anger and hate, and because those things are meant to teach us, like, they're meant to help us understand the difference between emotions and thoughts and actions that are of low vibration and those that are of higher vibration, so that we can learn and then try to live, from a place of higher vibration. But I don't even call them enlightened people, right? You think of, Gandhi, for example, right? Yeah. Currently like Sadhguru, for example, they have trials, like, even once they're enlightened, like they're not living in absolute bliss. This experience of humanity is difficult. Like it's painful. So, and when you're in business with, competitors in a market and employees, and we, doing cyber warfare with, sometimes individuals who are not necessarily acting out of a really great constructive place, it grounds you really quick, but I also have my own practices to try to, shake off the day, right? Try to end my days with yoga or, a workout and a meditation, and kind of get back into a more spiritual space for myself. Because it does help build, strength and power within me, so that I can confront, the next day, the next challenge, the next goal, right? The next summit. So yeah, and again, I don't know that. I think it would be foolish. Pop culture, pop psychology kind of teaches us, like, oh, you just got to find absolute flow and bliss all the time, and like, if you're not really happy and joyful, like you're doing something wrong, right? Something's wrong in your life, and the way I think is no, like, we're meant to suffer. And this is probably a little more kind of a Buddhist sort of ideal. Like, you're meant to suffer because suffering brings progress and growth, like being uncomfortable, and that's, your pursuit, for example, in business and leader, is a pursuit of making yourself uncomfortable. Like, it's like getting very comfortable with making yourself uncomfortable and then getting comfortable with making other people uncomfortable, because you're helping people stretch and grow, so that you can achieve together. That's one of the things I really like about business. And, one of the things that, sometimes, is challenging for people. While I'm a very engaged, caring, empathetic, kind leader, I'm driven, and we're going to achieve, and that means, like, I absolutely believe in absolute ownership and accountability and personal responsibility, and so, I enjoy being in the space where, like, because I do believe, our purpose is to grow and expand, to learn, to become better. And we do that by setting, our sights on something higher all the time, and, going for it. And in order to achieve those things, like, you have to make progress. Like, you have to have meaningful plans, real plans, and you got to, like, break down weeks and months on, what you're going to accomplish and what you're going to get done, and then actually go for it and be accountable to yourselves, be accountable to your team. I'm babbling.
No,
No, that
Yeah.
makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
You've mentioned the word being a lot. I think about the word being a lot because we're human beings, right? But then like who we're being matters. Who you're being has an effect outside of you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and you kind of have to take some responsibility for who you're being and the effect it has outside of you.
I 100% agree. Like, I think that we as individuals create ripples, and those ripples are either constructive or they're destructive, call it positive or negative, when we choose to show up, in a negative way, and this, again, new age spiritualism kind of stuff, the vibrational frequency of that, like we are sensitive to that as beings, like, and you tear down other people's, granted, we all should step and stand into our own power and figure out how to deal with, influences beyond ourselves that are not constructive. But that's not easy, and that's a lifelong pursuit.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly don't have full mastery over something like that, right? That's something I'm still seeking. There's those bad days at the office, the things that happen. The bad days at home, right? You have conflicts with your partner or with your family, your kids, and those things all affect you, they affect your well-being, your emotions, they affect how you hold on to all that stuff. But yeah, I agree, Clint. I mean, I think we have a responsibility to show up as our best selves to our best capability. There's no perfection.
Yeah, you'll fail at that for sure.
Yeah.
But
being mindful of like, how am I going to try to be my best self today? And, how am I going to help the people around me? I think is a better way to live life, and ultimately contributes to the whole, in a far better way. And while I don't think, I know this is, often not a popular idea in, particularly, here, in our kind of Utah culture, I don't think that a healthy level of selfishness is bad.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, adequately taking care of your own self and your own needs and making sure that you're in a good space is really important. But I do think that there's a bigger picture, and that means that, we should be mindful about how we help others, grow and achieve and do greater things together. Yeah.
Yeah.
how do you feel about kind of the mental health crisis we're in as a community, in the tech community for sure?
Yeah.
And you and I, have had some experiences together here that are profound.
Yeah.
Around this, and some really sad experiences around. What do you think that we can do as leaders in this community to help there? Like, this is the thing that I don't know what the answer is. I mean, we try all sorts of things. We do these town halls, and maybe some of it works, maybe some of it doesn't. I have no idea. And sometimes I worry like doing stuff actually might hurt. So I don't know what to do. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah. Really good, Clint. And first off, just, I do want to recognize the work that you guys have done, and you, as the leader of this organization, seeing the problem and like leaning in and saying, from your heart, like deeply feeling it and going, okay, like, I mean, that's very empathetic, right? And being like, we as an institution can have some influence and do something important here, right? So that's, I think, that step is really crucial. Awareness is important. Careful awareness, because again, we may enable, or bring out, maybe false realities or things like that, as well. So I do think, being careful about how we talk about these things, and, but being real about it.
Yeah.
Being a founder is hard. Like,
It's lonely.
Physically, emotionally, psychologically. I've been through it, man. Like, I mean, I've been through, deep depression and deep anxiety. I won't say that I haven't, thought about just checking out before, right? And I've had, multiple people around me. I mean, I've had multiple dear friends that have, left us of their own choice. And I've had my own children who have, had deep suicidal, sort of thoughts, or even attempting, right? It's a very real kind of problem. I do think a lot of it comes from, in my personal opinion, a lot of it comes from us forgetting about the whole being. And openly, I think that the best way we can address it is helping everybody understand that, there is a need for us to address and be mindful of our whole being, right? Like, we're best in balance. We feel the best. We're best in flow when we take good care of our bodies, when we take good care of, our minds, when we take good care of our guts, when we pursue a greater meaning beyond ourselves, whether you believe in something beyond an afterlife, or whether you believe there's a spirit in you, but it's just some pursuit of recognizing that there's a greater whole of humanity, and I'm here to help in some way with that, not just just do everything I want to do in my own life, which again, life is for enjoying. Like, you're here to have this experience and like have fun and enjoy it, and do things that are self-serving, like do things that make you happy. But the happier you are, the better you can show up, the better you can influence and help others. So, I think you got to get to the root is what I'm saying. Like, and it's a whole, whole body being health sort of, thing for me anyways.
Yeah. Can I just say, because you gave me a compliment, now let me give you one. When we had a fellow member of our community take his own life, the way that you rallied the community there, and we held this memorial for him, and you put it all together, and the way you put it together, and the empathy, and the people who were in the room, it was like, it wasn't about you, it wasn't about any of us, right? Like, a lot of times, like, we organize events in order to come out of them at the end as though we've like put some numbers on a scoreboard that doesn't exist, right? Or we've brought some business or attention to ourselves in some positive way. The way you did that and the way that whole thing happened, I was blown away by it, my friend. So I don't know if I've thanked you for it, but thank you so much for doing that.
I appreciate that. It means a lot. Especially in business, like, there's always a scoreboard. We're always looking to, put points on the board, right? And as A types, we're keeping score on ourselves, and like, we want to walk away from the things we do, like feeling like we had a win, and something built us, or our public perception, and that kind of stuff. This is, again, goes back to my, my deeper philosophical beliefs, of I don't think there's a whole lot of constructiveness in over-serving the ego. I think that can get unhealthy pretty fast. And again, a healthy amount of ego, a healthy balance of ego, I think is important. I do think you can go too far. And for me, Glad was a dear friend. He brought a lot of light and love to the community around him. Obviously, he suffered at a very deep level that most of us didn't know, until the last few months of his life. Like, really, we had no idea. And he and I had spent some time together. I was a bit of a mentor to him over time. Mm-hmm. It was a significant loss. It was a really hard one for me. And I wanted that to be about honoring Glad, honoring the life, and the light he had brought to the community. He dealt with some shadows. We all do. And ultimately he decided that, those were too much to bear, Mm-hmm. So yeah, I appreciate that. It was about, how do we honor our friend? How do we honor what he's given us, the gifts that he's given us, and send him off in a way that's, that does justice to the human being that he was.
Really, I appreciate it. I had Glad on the podcast a few times and was interacting with him a little bit before, but when Clint told me about that, it was amazing. I do have a question about what you do day job.
Yeah.
We're all impacted by like IT and cybersecurity, right? you get hacked or your credit card gets stolen from Target or whoever. But it is a little bit annoying being from the outside looking in, right? You have to worry about it all the time. But how much of what y'all do in your industry is reactionary and how much of it is proactive? And can you guys be a little bit more proactive and kind of punching these guys in the where it matters?
Yeah. We definitely try to operate in a space of being proactive. That's far more empowering than being reactive to cyber incidents, breaches, and stuff like that. So for us, it's about what is it? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, or whatever that saying is. Mm-hmm. That's an interesting balancing act as well, because in business we deal with real budgets. Like very few businesses are like wildly profitable, right. That just have endless resources. Most of us have to really toe the line with being very careful about the budgets and how we spend money, and so that's why we take a very consultative approach and a very hands-on, needs-based approach to our clients. We look at our primary sectors that we operate in are more highly regulated, healthcare, finance, because they have obligatory compliance and cyber practice obligations that are pushed down through state and federal governments. So we look at, what are the needs of the industry? What are the requirements of the compliance regulations that apply? What are the best things that you can do to protect your data, your employees' data, your clients' data? And then we come up with a customized approach to the preventative solutions that we put in place and then we manage, on an ongoing basis. That's, cyber and compliance practices are not a set it and forget it kind of thing. Hackers are evolving and they're evolving with AI as well. We've been battling, weaponized AI for 10 or 12 years, and we've been battling it with benevolent AI, to detect them, to neutralize them. It's about figuring out, because you could do, if you had, all the budget in the world, you could implement 50 different preventative measures and solutions, and compliance regulations, you usually call them controls, and policies and procedures and all that kind of stuff. Most organizations, you have budget to implement something more along the order of 6 to 12, and some compliance regulations will require that you implement 12 to 20, specific controls, things like password management and multi-factor authentication, and what's called next gen endpoint security, or we used to call it antivirus back in the day. Things like hard drive encryption, EDR, or what is detection and response. So security operations center, keeping an eye on all the traffic in the network and looking for malicious activity and then neutralizing that. So it depends kind of on the business, their needs, the sensitivity of the data, how the architecture is built. Like if they're a SaaS company, we do business with a lot of SaaS companies that have public facing platforms, but then they have a private network, of course, that they operate on behind that. And so those are more intricate. You've got more data that's potentially more exposed, and so we have to look at the architecture of their technology, and then devise solutions around what really makes sense and what fits the budget. But I can tell you, a head in the sand approach is no longer a valid approach for all this stuff. Yeah.
Hey, congratulations on your deal and partnership with the Utah Jazz, by the way.
Thank you so much. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, we're super excited about that. Obviously, the Jazz has always been kind of a pillar of the community. The Millers, and now of course with Ryan, the Smiths, really kind of leading out, and they've always been so engaged, beyond basketball, beyond the business. Been so engaged in doing meaningful things in the community, and have brought a lot to Utah, right? I mean, if you think about what would Utah be without the Utah Jazz,
the front door to Utah, for sure, is the Utah Jazz.
we're super excited about, partnering with them, helping with them with some of their cyber posture, some of these things we just talked about. We're grateful to our strategic partner Cronus, who's part of that with us. They're a B2B SaaS provider that, has solutions in the backup and cyber realm. They're part of this partnership with us. It's cool, and we're going to do some cool stuff with the Jazz. Beyond that relationship, we're working on some community initiatives I won't talk about right now just yet until things are more solidified. But we're looking to do some cool stuff to create some positive impact in particularly in the tech community and in business in Utah together. That partnership's going to extend beyond. I think Nexus. We're a very community minded organization as well.
For sure.
We're looking to do stuff beyond just a business relationship.
It's incredible. Hey, real quick, today's show was brought to you by Black Desert. Black Desert is committed to one thing above all: fostering an endlessly fun and fascinating resort community without pretense that puts the remarkable within reach. Home to a PGA FedEx Cup and LPGA event, Black Desert offers world-class golf, hospitality, dining, shopping, and recreating in a stunning 600-acre canvas in the heart of Greater Zion, Southern Utah. More info at blackdesertevents.com. Man, we need to have you on every Monday. We need to have like Earl Mondays.
Yeah.
I'm leaving this show uplifted. Thank you, my
Consciousness
friend.
is elevated.
I'm glad to hear that. One of my life missions, and actually our mission at Nexus IT, our mission is to elevate IT, but one of my life missions is just to elevate, the world around me. So I appreciate that, man.
Well,
That's
you've done that this
elevated.
morning. Thank you, my friend. Tomorrow we have Tony Child, who's the CEO and founder of Elevated Worldwide. Everyone have a good Monday. Have
Thanks,
a good
Earl.
week.
Thanks, everybody.